Good morning. We. Shoo-ba-doo-ba-doo-doo-doo. Tips off of the morning to you. Hello. Sorry. Morning chores. I usually try and finish all my morning chores before I start, but today I forgot one, and that is take a poop. Forgot that morning chore. Now that's taken care of. Came across a turtle on its back. What would you do? I would help him. What would you do? Why wouldn't you help a little turtle You have to be a mean son of a bitch. Have to be a real mean son of a bitch. A Boston butt. That's cool. I've got my own barbecue planned for later on this evening. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. I don't think it was Mike Tyson that said that, but how much for my eternal soul? $3.50. And I won't take $1 less, so don't even try and haggle me. $3.50. That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight, losing my religion, trying to keep up a view, and I don't know if I can do it. Oh no, said too much, haven't said enough. Everyone has a mouth until they get punched in the plan. Tyke Myson. Oh yeah, I remember that one. That's a good one. That's a good life quote. Our parents should have just named you Laika. Dude, why the Arcade Fire isn't a huge band, I'll never know. Why they didn't blow up, I'll never know. Triple kill. Man, people are on point tonight. Dude, I don't know. You're off on a fucking this feels like you're off on a gang of like copy pastas, bro. So I'll ignore this last one, but the next thing you say better damn well make sense. Or else. What are we talking about here? Nothing yet. Not a damn thing. Oh no, not a spider. Or do you really like travel around hoping to find people that are deathly afraid of spiders? I'm not afraid of creatures. You seen it scurry across? Good. I hope it builds a big web and has egg sacs up there. You know why? I know not to be afraid of spiders. Spiders eat things that I really don't like mosquitoes and flies and cockroaches. Spiders are our buds. And unless they have a big red hourglass or the shape of the fiddle on their back, they probably should be welcomed into your home. you think there's sorry, do you think there's any chance you and Alchemist Soil's conversation becomes contentious like a classic Paul Ponage? I think that largely depends more on him. Like for me, here's the downside for me going into this, right? I am absolutely, utterly over the top bored with his main pet peeve. His main pet peeve about me seems to be electoralism. And I gotta tell you, I don't give a fuck. I'm back to brunch now. Okay, I said what I had to say. I'm back to brunch. No, I just don't. I feel like I've spent an inordinate amount of my life talking electoralism in the last 4 or 6 years, and I'm truly, well and truly done with it. So it's gonna be tough for me to find a whole lot of fire on that subject. I described you as being very mood dependent and vibe dependent performer when I was talking about the stream coming up, so that makes sense. Oh yeah, I admit that about myself. I'm a moody sumbitch, and my mood does affect my participation in things. Vibes are important to me too. For me, if Alchemist Soil and I sit down and have a calm conversation, I consider that a win, because the dude spends hours and hours and hours snarking me with his little girlfriend. And if he shows up with straight-laced and semi-respectable, that'll prove everything that I want to prove. That's it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like if he doesn't out the gate bring 100% of the same energy he brings in his fucking 100 hours worth of Paul's ego shit, you know what I mean? Then I'll consider that a pretty much overwhelming win. He won't. Oh, I think he will. I think he will. Or you mean bring the same energy? I don't think he will. I think you're right. I think he's going to be meek and polite and very, very nervous. Very nervous indeed. I don't think I'm going to get even a tenth of that energy unless I bring it out of him. I might have to bring it out of him. But if that's the case, then that's really the only point that I want to prove today. It's the only thing I'm going in hoping to walk out with a win on is, why me? Like why a low to middling view streamer and not one of these big streamers that's saying the same type of shit as me? You know what I mean? Why the obsession? Why hang out in a community filled with like creepy obsessive weirdos? Why? You know what I mean? I don't know. That's one of the things I talked to him about after we kept arguing after our debate. He's so meek and respectful on voice, but deranged. Well, I don't know how he's going to be on voice with me. But if he's anything like meek, respectful, polite, then, like, once again, I'll consider my point proved. You know what I mean? I would expect a dude that's got, dozens of videos dedicated to tearing down everything from the way I look to the way I talk, to my beliefs, to my family, to my wife, right? I mean, literally just like, let's dissect Paul's life and find everything wanting. I would expect a guy like that to come right out the gate, charging out the gate with brawlic attitude, just like he brings, right? And if he's like, well, hello, sir. I hope to have a constructive conversation. That'll prove everything I want to prove. Like, that's the only win I want to get tonight. is showing this guy doesn't bring the same energy that he brings in his little, fairyland over there. Yeah, I've seen. I went and saw he posted on a hate sub, and I think he's trying to create this narrative that I like begged him for this, when the actual truth is people from that sub came over here and asked me, when you gonna debate alchemist soil, so many times that I finally fucking said anytime he wants, right? So that's actually the truth. You know what I mean? Was this guy mad? Always. See? Yeah. 10 p.m. PST. It's going to be a late night affair for you East Coasters, anyway. Can you reiterate for the people why it's important to prove the point that online weirdos don't bring the same energy on voice that they do in their own communities and corners? Well, because it underlines the fact that what they're engaged in is fantasy, right? There's no I'm sure this guy will love to provide arguments that he feels are just based in fact, but when the entire point of those facts is to tear down every aspect of another human being's life, like the overarching thing with him is not Paul's wrong about politics. It's I don't like Paul's ego, right? And so you know what I mean? I think it's important, if you want to have a political conversation, that you conduct yourself in a way that wouldn't get you like kicked in the nuts in person, right? And a lot of these online content creators, particularly anonymous ones, really like to bring the mouth when they're in their own element. But as soon as they talk to you, yes, sir, no, sir, right? I've had it happen to me a bunch of times. I'm not saying that's what he'll do. Maybe, to his credit, he'll bring the same energy. I doubt it. I severely doubt it. Yeah. You should be real online and off. Don't use the internet like a little playground for your id. Use the internet like what it is. It's a communication tool. Develop, this guy clearly is trying to build himself a little channel. If I were to give him advice, it's like, stop being a guy whose entire existence is about another guy. That's step one. Start being your own voice. I'm married, so that is my life. Aw. Thoughts on the economic state of Yemen? Oh man, I could go on for hours and hours about Yemeni economics. Okay, but I feel like there are other people watching that would be kind of lost in that conversation, so maybe no. Oh my God, but one of the most fascinating economic subjects, Yemeni economics. I see 1, 2, 3 in a row. Good morning, starshine. The earth says hello. Yep, go subscribe to Phoebe if you want to see tonight's festivities or whatever it's going to be. Well, that's what I was saying, is like, if I get any of that energy, I will have to do the work to bring it out of him. If I needle him in the right way, he'll start bringing that energy, but he'll reveal that that energy is not his forte. It's a lot easier to be a snark machine when you've got your little girlfriend sitting next to you going, yeah, that's a funny one, right? It's going to be a little tougher to be a snark machine tonight for the guy. He's going up against a very practiced snark machine of my own accord, right? So I don't think the guy is going to be able to bring that energy. He's sensitive about his little girlfriend too. Oh, I know he is. I know he is. I can tell. But you know, he's got a dude second voicing him who, like, kind of a mongoloid, a little bit stupid, a little bit repetitive, you know what I mean? But that's a security blanket. See, here's the problem: is he's just dipping his toe into podcasting and online content creation and stuff. I'm old hat. I'm one of the veterans of the world when it comes to that. 20 years, close to it at least. I've been doing this, and so what we call his second voice, we call that a security blanket, right? You need a second voice, not to fill out and challenge you, right? But to nod his head at you, to giggle at your little jokes, right? So that's called a security blanket in the business. And he hugs his security blanket real hard. Security blanket isn't going to be there tonight. So I guess we'll see how that affects the attitude of the room. Yeah, it'll be like debating Beavis without Butthead, or maybe Butthead without Beavis. Yeah, yeah. So if I were him, I'd be pretty nervous about tonight. Like, if I were in his position, I would just now put my toe into this shit, and I'm walking into the room with somebody that's been doing this for 20 years, makes a good living doing it. I'd have a lot of little butterflies in my tum-tum about tonight. So there are ways that you can do yourself wrong when you've got butterflies in your tum-tum. Is you can over prepare. And that is something I feel like, I don't know much about this guy's personality. I'll know more after tonight. But I think that this guy might be one of those guys. I think he might be hunched over his computer right now, working on a document, working on this, working on that, pulling this, that. And I think he's going to be so over prepared, he's not going to be able to lock in. And I think I can say that and warn him about it as a possible pitfall for this type of work. And he's still stumble straight into it because he's so green. He's so fresh, so new. Bro said green. Bro did. hate TJ without telling you hate TJ? Huh? I actually love TJ quite a bit. I actually find myself, now that I live apart from TJ, missing the fuck out of just spending time with the dude. Just kicking back and smoking a joint with the guy, you know what I mean, is kind of a simple thing that I really, really miss. You know what I mean? So that tells me I kind of care pretty deeply about TJ. Well, I got to be honest with you. I won't talk about the argument or whatever last night. You know, I have a tendency to get too hyper invested in things, and TJ has a tendency to kind of like put a wall up and plant his feet in these types of arguments. And what it creates is some pretty fun fireworks for everybody, right? But ultimately speaking, TJ and I have literally verbally murdered each other since almost the very beginning of our association. The first association that I ever had with TJ was making a video attempting to tear him down, and then him coming back, a more practiced video maker, and destroying me, right? So a lot of people forget that. Like, our association as friends and co-workers and creators and stuff started in the fires of contention, and it remains in there sometimes. You know, he and I don't agree on everything. We agree on a lot, I think, but when we disagree, the fireworks go, because it's the unstoppable force versus the immovable object, right? It's a rock and a hard place moment, and that makes fireworks, and that makes fun, and that makes compelling stuff to watch. You know what I mean? So, well, I'll talk to you about this too. And this is something that happens a lot on the hate subs that surround our, like the snark subreddits and shit that surround our business. Is there is this constant narrative of, when is this going to fail? And I think it's hilarious personally, because that has been the narrative since literally episode 1 of Deep Fat Fried. If you go to episode 1 of Deep Fat Fried, it is filled with comments like, "This ain't it, Chief," with 200 upvotes. Apparently it was it, because it's paid the bills now for 8 years. You know what I mean? So people don't know what they want. That's a big thing that you learn being a content creator immediately, is that if you let your channel be run by committee, you won't have any channel at all. Because there is a gleeful narrative in the rise and fall. People love to watch people rise, and people love to watch people fail, right? And so there is a sincere hope amongst a lot of people who watch us that they see a giant explosive flame out, and that TJ and Scotty and I get the knife out and just start stabbing each other in public. You know what I mean? And if you were on the inside of our business together, you would know that nothing's further from the truth. And if anything, we've solidified and expanded upon our collaboration, right? You would know that for a fact. But in your mind, it's fun to imagine that TJ and I secretly hate each other, hate working with one another, and are desperate to stop. Desperate, right? Or do you see Deep Fat Fried in 10 years? If we're talking about the brand, I see it dead. That's personal, right? I don't think that the people will be calling it Deep Fat Fried in 10 years. In fact, I'm quite certain about that. What do I look like? Jelly Roll? Probably because you're uncreative. You see a fat guy with a beard, and you go, hey, you look like other fat guy with a beard. It probably has something to do with the fact that your IQ is in the double digits. I would guess. Something like that. Thanks for asking the question, though. Appreciate that. Can't time you out, but I will ban you for wasting my time. So enjoy your perma. Have fun. But yeah, no. TJ and I are buddies. We're friends. If there was some growing negativity between the two of us, we would hash it out. You don't need to worry about it. Mom and dad have fights sometimes, but they still love each other, okay? I feel like that's the way it is, though. I mean, people love when we have arguments, but then the speculation starts like, what if they break up? It's like TJ and I have almost, like that argument or back and forth that he and I had last night was tame in fucking comparison to arguments we've had about way more frivolous things. You know what I mean? Like, you can't put people, like, that's the thing, is like one of the things that makes the dynamic between me and the Kirk brothers work, I think, is our similarities. But you can't put people with that many similarities in the same room for as long as we're in the same room and not expect some fucking headbutting to happen. And it does. And, you know, our show is very real and it plays out in real time. And, well, I like that. Well, that's the thing about the Kirks and I, right, that I think make us work together as collaborators is because TJ and I and Scotty and I have had arguments that, like, people of different constitutions, that maybe that did break up a show, right? Like me and Scotty going at each other over him threatening to kick my ass, right? Like, maybe that does end some shows. Maybe that is an unhealable wound in some shows, but the Kirks and myself were both kind of forged in the crucible of argumentation, right? My family is very fucking Irish, okay? Very Irish. It means that they get drunk and they yell at each other a lot. At least they did when I was young. So it is not the end of the world when somebody I'm close to says something mean about me, and vice versa. And I think that because of the peculiarities of our upbringings, we work well together, right? Because we can say that type of shit to each other, and there's a separation, right? Man, just nobody passing muster in the chat today is really fucking with me, dude. It's fucking me up. It's fucking me all the way up because nobody passes fucking muster. And the muster is literally type like you have a 75 IQ or better. That's it. And it's just like the amount of mouth breathers that have popped through today. And just unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. But Paul, people want to bless you with their Jesus powers. Good. Let them. Some human beings have literally lost the ability to communicate like they're not critically autistic. I think about it, that's coming from an autistic. Well, I think that like, and you know, I'm not equipped to make this proclamation. I'll say that right out front, right? I am not a doctor of any sort. But I think that society is becoming autistic. And I don't mean it like people often use autistic and retard synonymously. I don't mean it like that. I mean, if you actually look at the symptoms of autism, I think that our society is becoming autistic. I think we are losing our ability to empathize and sympathize with one another. I think we are losing our ability to understand nuance. I think we are losing our ability to understand purpose and humor. I think we are losing our ability to critically examine our own thoughts. I think we are losing our ability to control our impulses. All of these things are indicative of autism, ASD, and I think all of those things could be applied as critiques to our society broadly as well. Psychogenic autism, mass psychogenic autism, the isolation, the 3 layers of mask that you have to put on in order to go online. Because, oops, I fucked up and said something retarded. You never own it. You just disappear and become some other random guy with 3 layers of masks on him, right? I think it's making people autistic. I think it's making people talk past each other, making people not understand the flow of conversation, making people miss nuance and nonverbal communication, right? Facial expressions are completely absent from most online communications, right? Well, if you're a kid and you spent most of your fucking childhood with your nose tucked in a phone, you didn't get that nonverbal stimulation. So, you know, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a clinician of any type or any stripe. So take this with a grain of Paul. But I think society is becoming autistic. And I think that is the reason why autism diagnoses are up, is because more and more children are being raised in the absence of stimulus that is needed for them to develop the things that autistic people lack. Well, some people have. Some people have had vastly more online, faceless, anonymous interactions than they have ever had face-to-face interactions, and that does something to a human being. You're not going to fucking convince me otherwise. You're not going to convince me that it is normal as a human being to have more anonymous, faceless, consequence-free interactions than actual face-to-face interactions with human beings. And there are millions of people on the planet right now, maybe even billions, for whom that is true. Like your Puerto Rico cup? Thanks. I like my Puerto Rico cup too. Isla del Encanto. La Isla Bonita. We are living in a world of abundance with no skill of moderation. Maybe you're right. the amount of papers I have to mark wherein it's just 98% chat GPT, no effort anymore. Well, people can't put in the effort anymore. It's not even laziness, it's inability. So many people get socially promoted through the years where you're supposed to be learning how to write a paper, that how can you expect a college kid to write a paper? You know, if they didn't have chat GPT, they wouldn't be able to survive. They've grown up that way. So if you're a gloid, do not apply. My mods will ban you before I ever get the chance to see your shit. If you've read a book, feel free. Kids learn how to moderate their behavior by reaction, peers. Children don't get that. Yeah. Yo, I watched the Pontypool movie like 12 years ago and I loved it. I was so surprised you used it last night. It's a great movie, man. Agreed. I'm glad you like it too. And not many people ever talk about Pontypool, but it's a cool movie. I feel that I hate my generation. As you guys see, when people have parties nowadays, there's always a shooting or a death. It's no fun like you guys got to have without violence. There were violent parties. People got shot at parties in the 90s. In fact, people got shot at parties in the 90s in numbers way higher than people get shot at parties now. Would you believe that crime has plummeted since the 90s? I wouldn't. You would think it's off the charts, exploding. But crime, violent crime in particular, like murder and assault and attempted murder, has plummeted since the mid 90s. Plummeted. So it's less about things were safer back then and more about people were less afraid back then. The early 90s was the most violent time in the modern era. You're absolutely right. Murder was absolutely out of control. People don't know this. People think it was like all peaceful and idyllic and shit, because that's what people do to history. They clean it up. Well, I'm from then. I came of age in the 90s. It was violent as fuck. People just weren't pussies. People were like, oh, well, I'm going to go to a party. There was no, what if you get shot? Well, fuck it. Then I go out partying, I guess. I don't know. We just didn't live our lives in constant fear. So, I don't know how to put it. And that's just the truth. That's not me, like, those are numbers, right? You can fact check me. Go look at violent crime statistics in the 90s and look at them now and tell me I'm wrong. It was way more dangerous to go out, way more dangerous to let your kids play, but way more kids played. Way more kids were running the neighborhood. Way more kids had better things to do than look at their phone 24 hours a day, right? It makes more sense. I'm not a party guy anyways. I go to car meets more, but thanks for clearing that. No worries. I wasn't trying to like big bro you. I was just letting you know, man. I'm from then. You know what I mean? We just lived our lives. We weren't terrified of getting shot 24/7. We weren't worried about every goddamn little thing. We went out and had fun. Some of us got killed. Like pretty much every other era in history, just extra violent. I don't know if specifically there's more shootings at concerts and big group things as there were in the 90s. You would have to look. I mean, there are crime statistics and there are crime comparisons and stuff. Do a little Google foo, you know. You'll find everything I'm saying is absolutely true. I don't know, maybe there are more like mass shootings now than there were back then. There probably are. But if you take murder for murder, crime is like in the toilet in comparison to where it was in the peak. It's like you have a nice spot in the woods, bro. You know something about I love about living in the woods? The whole character of your life changes when the sun goes down. So around 3 o'clock in the woods is when the sun dips down below the tree line. And so while the rest of the world is still baking for another 3 or 4 hours, you're in the gloam. You're in the forest gloam. And everything gets colder, cooler, quieter, softer. Changes the character of your life. It changes the character of your day. I love that. Plus, I don't know how much of it you guys can hear, but hear how alive the woods are. You guys can hear some of that, maybe? That changes the character and nature of your life as well. Birds chirp and the subtle humming of a silverback gorilla. Wait, Paul is behind you. Run! Not gorilla. You don't run from gorilla. Paul looks so chill this morning. I try and be this chill every morning. I don't always succeed. That's another thing, though. You know, kind of like running through tonight's discussion with Alchemist Soil is like, I'm a different person than I was just a couple of years ago, man. You know, maybe it doesn't show as much in my front facing kind of content, but I think it shows here. Like, I'm just a calmer individual, man. I'm not saying I don't have my moments and stuff, but I'm just not quite as bothered by things as I used to be. You know, I know that's kind of funny coming right after a night where I had a big salt explosion, but that's what I'm saying. I think my front-facing content might lead people to believe that I'm wound a little tighter these days than I actually am. You know, not everything is perfect, and I got a lot of business shit in the fire. I got a lot. I'm just buried with shit that I have to do, but I feel good, and I feel calm, and I feel collected, and I feel like I see a tunnel through, and I see a light at the end of that tunnel, right? And I feel myself walking through that tunnel, and I passively allow the air and the breeze that comes through that tunnel to hit me in the face. You know what I mean? I'm kind of at a different perspective on life a little bit than I did a couple years ago. Different perspective on myself and my role in the world, if such a thing exists, right? This too shall pass, yeah. What was it? God give me the grace to change the things I can. How does that go? God, give me the grace to, I don't know, something about like change the things you can, leave alone the things you can't, and the wisdom to know the difference or something like that, right? People put little plaques in their bathroom with that on it sometimes. Didn't even spell it right. Damn. Roasted, toasted, burnt to a crisp. Dear God, please grant me the strength to blame those who did this to me, to accuse those who didn't, and the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah, that's how it is. Yes, I do meditate. I've been practicing mindfulness meditation, not as much as I should have for a long time, but for about 20 years. I learned about 20 years ago. And, I don't do like mantra meditation or focal meditation or anything like that. I do breath meditation. So I focus on my breath. And the concept that helps me to do that is when I'm meditating, I imagine that when I inhale, the world, outside world, is coming into my inner world. And then when I exhale, I imagine that I'm expelling the outside world. And that concept, right, is what I focus on. As thoughts come racing in, I greet them sometimes. I'll say, hello, thank you. Back to the breath, back to the breath, back to the breath. I'm too fidgety for meditation. I don't think anybody is, but I understand what you're saying. I had a hard time learning how to do it because you feel like you're not doing it right, right? And so you think you're too fidgety. The truth of the matter is that there's no wrong way to meditate, and there's no minimum or maximum amount of time you have to meditate every day, right? It is something that improves with practice, just like playing the guitar, right? The first time you pick up a guitar, you're absolutely going to suck at it. Play the guitar for 6 months and you're playing Layla, you know what I mean? Knock me on my knees, Layla. You know what I mean? Do do do. Do 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 do. Yeah. 10 minutes, a minute worth of meditation, right? You don't even set goals. Like I don't even, because like that's what people will tell you when you're trying to learn meditation, right? Is like, do not judge yourself. If you sit there and just fidget and think crazy shit for 5 minutes, fair enough. Do it again. Don't give up is the idea, right? Because eventually you start to understand the mechanism by which your brain works. It's about using breath, the mind's ability to focus on, to soft focus, really, to give you a moment of calm and peace, and it feels restorative and it feels fortifying, right? But it's all based in psychological fact, right? Meditation is prescribed as a practice by psychological doctors all over the world, because studies have shown that it has a uniquely calming effect on human beings. So it is something that you learn to do, like playing the piano. Don't look at it like something like you're supposed to be able to just do. And oh man, I can't do it. I'm too fidgety. It's like playing the piano. You sit down at the piano, you suck. By week 1, you're playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. By week 2, you're playing Chopsticks. By week 3, you're starting on Fur Elise, right? You know, it's like that. I love listening to birds while walking. Thanks for a natural antidepressant. Yeah, no problem. I'm glad more people get to enjoy this. Boom, boom, boom. Knock me on my knees, lay low. Boom, boom, boom. Have you heard the new song everyone is talking about? The music name is Magic is Small. You're banned. Ban him. Ban him. You're in here just fucking spamming shit. It makes no sense. Just fucking get out. It's the last instrument I played. Trumpet. I don't really play instruments. Didn't even notice until you read it out loud. I know. They design things as paragraphs, so it looks like they're contributing. That's like bot shit, I think. But they design paragraphs to look like it's a cohesive thought, so it just kind of sneaks by. It's so weird. Oh yeah. Well, it's one of the trolling kind of trolling tactics that killed this type of streaming. There was a point in time where a lot of people were doing the type of streams that I do, right? Which is like you're trying to interact with the chat. You're hoping the chat says stuff that's worthy of reading and asks questions, has interesting insights and stuff. There were a lot more people doing this type of streaming 15 years ago, 10 years ago ish, And yeah, those people are all gone now. Mostly due to people trolling like that, like starting a thing like, "Hey man, I was just wondering if you bear do dee do 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 poo poo," right? And it's just like the whole point is I'm gonna get this person to read a pile of nonsense, and I'm telling you, man, it's there are people out there that were just chased away from the format because of that, and I had to come up with a way to handle it, right? Because I wasn't willing to cede this space to people with no brain. You know what I mean? And so I kind of created the format that you see here, right? Which is a heavily moderated chat where nonsense is zero tolerance, right? Where pick me behavior is zero tolerance, time wasting behavior is zero tolerance. And with a lot of work and effort from the mod team, you get a chat that you can actually read. Sorry if my last few messages seem like that. If they did, you'd be banned. That's the thing, Golgothica. Just because I choose not to engage, like sometimes people ask me a question, and it's just not, it goes nowhere, and I skip it, right? That doesn't mean it was bad, right? So, like, literally, when I say coherency is all I ask for, I mean it, right? It's cool if I don't read every little thing. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that I think you're stupid or off topic or, shouldn't be in here, right? The fact that you post as much as you do and you're still here, lets you know that you're fine, right? It really is just if you can't spell, don't take the time to, and are just typing nonsense that is apropos of nothing, and you can't even really make a sentence out of what you're typing, you're just gone, right? Yeah. Well, if it wasn't worth it, I wouldn't do it, right? If it wasn't worth it, I wouldn't do it because it is annoying at times. And it means that a lot of times you end up having to fucking just kind of sit and stew about how stupid everybody is. But, you know, a lot of the people that you see on the mod team are on the mod team because they managed to survive that crucible, right? They managed to be interesting and intelligent and engaged in their own various ways, right? That is why they're mods, right? So I think that part of my philosophy is what makes this work. Is you're not going to distinguish yourself in my community unless you're dedicated to this type of streaming and dedicated to interacting with me in them. And when you elevate people that have already shown that they enjoy the content and that they're dedicated to the premise, you elevate people that are dedicated to keeping it that way, right? So that's my thought process, if any. Every now and then there's a troll worth feeding. Yes, indeed. And I do that. People have forgotten how to troll in an entertaining way. It's not even about entertainment anymore. It's about personal, pick me, notice me shit. And that is the saddest form of trolling. Just, I need attention. I need attention. It's like, even if that's part of your trolling, if that's all you're doing is, I need attention, give me attention, mention me, mention me, mention me. It's like, fuck, bro. That's the lowest tier of trolling. That's literally baby's first troll, and that is 99% of trolls now. You're the definition of a millennial. I'm actually an exennial. I was born on the cusp. So I was born in 1980, which is directly on the cusp of Gen X and millennial. So I've got 1 foot in Gen X and 1 foot in the millennial generation. Yeah. Gen X, millennial, cusper, or exennial. But all of that is basically a modern day horoscope, so you can just discard it for the most part. You may as well care what my sign is. Aries, by the way, if that makes any difference. So you're a millennial Z cusper? Who cares about what generation you are? A lot of people these days. A lot of people. I mean, the names that people have ascribed to generations have become insults. Boomer, right? My parents were boomers, but I'm called a boomer by younger generations constantly, right? Because it just means dumbass old stud, you fucking don't know, you don't get it, man. You're not hip, bro. So, you know, it's surged in popularity for people to identify themselves as a generation. Like Generation X didn't go around like, yo, what up, y'all? Generation X in the building. Like we didn't. Sorry, we didn't care. But now everybody's like, yo, I'm a Z. Gen Z. What up, Gen Z? What up, millennials? What up? I'm a millennial. You know, like we didn't give a fuck. Gen X didn't give a shit. That name was applied to us by boomers. Isn't the boomer age referred to as the me generation? Yes. Selfish, the boomers were. Selfish, the boomers were. Why am I talking like Yoda? What the fuck? I just had a Yoda moment out of nowhere. Like us, they are not. Why is their generation called selfish? Because their generation pursued personal pleasure over responsibility. So their generation eschewed things like dedicated parenthood and eschewed things like saving money for their children and their children's education and stuff. And they eschewed those things for creature comforts, world travel, expensive brands of shoes and handbags and sunglasses, expensive cars, partying, etc. So the boomers are seen as a selfish generation because they largely abandoned the norms of parenthood. They changed the nature of parenthood. Parenthood became a latchkey affair, right? You've heard of latchkey children, right? So boomers were so busy chasing the buck that they forgot to raise their kids. That's why they're called the selfish generation. Wish I was a boomer. I'd give y'all nothing while I drink from the golden chalice, right? Look at them. Gaudy taste, by the way. Shag carpet. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything was very baroque. That's the way to put it. Everything was very baroque in the 80s, you know, when the boomers were of age and ascendant, right? Everything was very gold and gaudy and wealth flexy and very just over the top, right? And just ostentatious and weird and expensive, right? Couldn't that also be, oh, it certainly was asbestos. It certainly was. You're absolutely correct to say that a lot of that was due to worsening economic conditions and the fact that both parents had to work, right? In fact, the boomers were the last generation for which the paradigm of one parent works, one parent stays home was ever true. So that absolutely plays a factor, yes. You know, their selfishness didn't spring forth from nothing. But there was also things that weren't like, it's like, okay, yes, people had to work harder. The dollar went less far and more income was needed to sustain a household. But people's gaudy tastes and ostentatious purchasing made that kind of two worker household more necessary because people bought in to the grift that you are defined by things you purchase, right? This is, you know, covered pretty extensively in the Ken Burns, not Ken Burns, what's his name? Curtis, right? Fuck. Brain fart in his name, but the 21st Century of the South. Adam Curtis, thank you. 21st Century of the South talks about the invention of customer service and public relations, the invention of modern advertising, and how it changed people's mentality. right? And so the boomers heavily bought in to the paradigm of when I buy that pair of shoes, it says something about me. That pair of shoes is part of my personality. That car is my personality. That house that I bought, that's my personality right there. And my rug, that's me, right? So the boomers were the first generation to buy into that mentality. And that is also part of why they were called the selfish generation. Oh boy. You got anything to say, bud? It's weird how advertising has changed to appeal to people with skibbity brain. Commercials don't even talk about the product anymore. Oh, yeah. No, I know. Yeah. It'll just be like a dude in a sumo suit waiting for the bus. And he has trouble getting on the bus because the sumo suit is too big. And then finally, the people get together and pull him onto the bus. And he sits down. And he's all sweaty and mad. And then somebody hands him a Snickers bar. Commercial over. I just wrote a modern commercial, by the way. Literally. That's a commercial Snickers would probably make. Berries and cream, berries and cream. I'm a little lad who loves berries and cream. Berries and cream. Yes, all commercials were random back then, bro. You're just by the time berries and cream came out, all meaning had gone out of commercials and product placement. So you it might be the first time you noticed it, but it wasn't the beginning. But see, I mean, the fact that we're even sitting here talking about the advertising strategies of time wasting commercials speaks to the point. Our culture is consumerist to the nth degree, and we think that what we buy is who we are. And we have bought that premise for the entirety of my life, and it doesn't look like we're going to stop. Um, they've got their hooks in us, so to speak, on that. Do 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 ah. It doesn't matter what comes, fresh goes better in life. With Mentos fresh and full of life. Nothing gets to you, staying fresh, staying cool. With Mentos fresh and full of life. Part of why China still has a smaller GDP is because they're obsessed with saving instead of spending. Those days are changing rapidly. I was absolutely blown away by just some of the video that's coming out of China, Chinese cities that aren't even known in the West as big cities, like Chengdu and these urban centers that have just become these, kind of futuristic cityscapes. The types of products and conspicuous consumption that are available in these cities, the growing kind of wealth of the average citizen in China. China is on the cusp of exploding as an economic superpower. Like, they're ramping up as we ramp down. You know what I mean? And that's just the truth. Fashion tourism is huge in China right now. You can get designer for almost half off. Oh, probably even more than half off. Probably even way, like, for a lot of pieces, probably way more than half off. It's not about will be, it's about is, right? You're absolutely right. The same thing could be said about India. India is, 10, 15 years behind the industrialization curve of China. India is a rapidly more and more wealthy place, right? Rapidly industrializing, rapidly modernizing, etc. But China, I think a lot of people in the West have a blind spot on China because there's such a propaganda wall, right? If you talk to people about China, they'll be like, "Oh, it's a shithole. Fucking no freedom, no this, no that, no fucking money. Everybody poor, and fucking government's all corrupt." And it's like, yeah, some of that is true, but the poor part, that's not true anymore. And their cities look like what our cities, in my opinion, should look like. If we were making the proper investments in our infrastructure and our livability and things that help human beings, our cities would look a whole lot more like Chinese cities. And that's just the truth. There's no denying it. You know, go look at a drone flyover of Detroit, right? And then look at a drone flyover of Chengdu. It's fucking insane. No, I understand. Look, they're going to have the same problems as any industrialized nation is because they're based on the same capitalistic structure, right? So, yeah, no, I'm not saying China is great. I'm not saying China is perfectly positioned. I'm saying China is doing better than we're doing. China is heading in a positive direction, and we're heading in a negative direction. And that is just the truth. Not a lot of people want to say it, but it's true. There's a certain amount of power in presentation. Some people would say a huge chunk of power lies in presentation. If that's the case, China is the leader of the free world, right? Their country has gone through such development in the last 20, 30 years that it literally looks like it's from the future. There's no changing that. There's no arguing against that. You can wave your hand at it at your own peril, right? That's a lot of what people, oh, half of those cities are empty, which is not true anymore. It was true 5, 6 years ago when China was building all these cities. The American propaganda about it then was China's building these ghost cities that'll never have people in them. Now all those ghost cities are brimming with people and commerce, and they look way better than our cities. So, uh-oh. Yeah, they didn't even have railroads less than a century ago. Now they got bullet trains. Yeah. So if you look at the trajectory and you look at the small amount of time that it's taken China to explode economically, their trajectory is super positive. Ours, hitting the toilet here soon. We're not doing good, guys. They're not going to be able to prop up the stock market with stock buybacks. They're not going to be able to hide the economic devastation for much longer. They've been pretending like everything's okay by doing stock buybacks that keep pumping up the fucking S&P and shit. That house of cards is about to blow over. All of those IOUs are about to come due, and there's going to be a lot of rich motherfuckers left holding the bag, and you know who's going to end up making up the bag? Average fucking people. I smell it in the wind. Don't you? All the malfeasance, all the fraud, all the lies, all the bullshit, all the backroom deals, all the hand in glove. The bill's about to come due. I smell it in the air. No, too much pot. You don't even know which fucking version of 2 to use. You're a gloid. You could literally pump pure weed into my veins and replace my blood with it, and I'd still be smarter than you on a bad day. Fucked up is that? Me, twisted as fuck off of weed. Stoned to the bone. Smarter than you on a bad day. Woof, that must feel bad. I wouldn't know, because I have nothing to compare it to. You smell nukes? It ain't nukes. I smell an economy that has become decoupled from reality. I smell an economy that is racing on a track to nowhere, and that track ends somewhere in the mid to distant future. And they're not going to be able to shore up that track for much longer. It's coming off the rails. And if history has anything to say about it, you and I get to hold the bag. We get the bill. I read about that on a Substack this morning. People want to think, oh yeah, well that is the huge falsehood that nobody ever wants to talk about, that our entire economic system is based on, right? The entirety of the global economic system as it exists right now is based on one incredibly false premise, a premise we know to be false. That premise, infinite growth. Infinite growth doesn't exist, but it's required in our economy. If things shrink, the economy collapses. So everything must grow in our economy. And there is this delusional idea that everything must grow and will grow, always. And when it doesn't, we have things like the 1921 stock market crash, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 2008 stock market crash, right? When reality catches up to the fantasy land that economists and Wall Street traders have created, it all blows up, it all comes tumbling down, and they go to the American people to foot the bill for all of the gambling and all of the bullshit. And it's about to happen again. I smell it in the air, baby. People think the collapse of the Romans as this sudden devastating thing. Yeah, the sack of Rome was not the collapse of Rome. The sack of Rome was the end of the collapse of Rome. The collapse of Rome happened over 100 years or more. And it rotted like a fish does from the head, from the inside out. And the sack of Rome was just the last event. When is the sack of America coming? It happened about 30, 40 years ago. Sorry to tell you, the sack of America happened about 30, 40 years ago. You want to see proof? Jeff Bezos has a yacht that has a yacht. Jeff Bezos' yacht has a yacht. There's your proof. The sack of America happened decades ago, friend. It's called catabolic collapse. Overall trend down with small hills of recovery every once in a while. Yeah. Well, that's us. I think you're about to get attention, friend, but I don't think it's the type of attention you want. That's right. The sack of Rome was the financial death, which was happening around 120 years, right? Do you think America could have a resurgence and retake its position as the undisputed global hegemon? If so, do you think, what do you think that would necessitate? War. It would necessitate war and America winning an amazingly devastating global war that sets everybody else back and puts America in a position of global recovery agent. That would bring manufacturing back to the United States. It would make the United States the economic center of the world again. But it would take killing a couple of generations of American and Chinese soldiers in order for that to happen. America's done. There's no peaceful way that America worms its way back to the top. We seeded that by giving all of the power to people like Jeff Bezos so that he could buy a yacht for his yacht. The money that he used to buy a yacht to service his yacht should have been used to shore up America, to shore up American infrastructure, to shore up American jobs and ensure American competitiveness in the global market. It wasn't, though. It went to Jeff Bezos's bank account. It went to Elon Musk's bank account. It went to Richard Branson's bank account. Okay, so all that money, which you guys know what money is, right? Money is power. Money is a projection of the power of an economy, right? And so all of that money, that by rights, most of it should have went to shoring up American defense, shoring up American infrastructure, ensuring American education is the top education in the world. ensuring that America remains the best place in the world, ensuring our cities shine brighter and are more functional than any city in the world. That's where that money should have went. That money went in Bezos's bank account, and now he has a yacht that has a yacht, and he's probably pricing out a yacht for his yacht's yacht. Good trade, America. Good trade. And what did you get? Dollar Green Dreams? Temporarily embarrassed millionaire? Well, at least I have a chance. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're a slave. That's what you traded. You traded slavery, right? You traded a walk-on part in the war for a lead role in the cage. There you go. Make no bones about it. You can not like what I'm saying, but you know it's the truth. Did you exchange, right? Did they get you to trade your heroes for ghosts, hot ashes for trees, a warm wind for a cool breeze, cold comfort for change? Did you exchange a walk-on part in the war for a lead role in a cage? Boom, 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 boom. A lot of prescience in that song. Thing that pisses me off more than anything else is knowing there's an unspoken amount of potential flushed down the toilet due to otherwise brilliant minds having to grow up in America. Oh, yeah. This is what I'm talking about, man. And people are like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, acting like Kamala Harris was going to save us from all of this when she fucking campaigned on accelerating it all. It's just, I get so bored with it, right? I get so bored with making the argument when it's so evident to me the extraction that's afoot. Everybody knows it, but nobody wants to address it directly. Everybody wants to pretend that they can, shuffle into the ballot box a couple times a year and solve it, when everything points to the fact that doing that mentality, that thought process has led to massive devastation. And it's killed us. It's killed us. Even if everybody woke up right now and there's a massive revolution in this country, I don't know that we could steal it back. I don't know that there's enough scraps left on the table for us to steal it back. I feel like that they have mortgaged us off to foreign interests to the point where even if we took it back, what's left on the table for us? I think you're about to get the attention that you're desperate for, friend, but it's not the type you want. Go seek it somewhere else. Do you think a king hundreds of years ago would be jealous of simple things in the average person's life today? Yes, absolutely. King Henry, dude, if you immediately were given the lifestyle of King Henry VIII, one of the most fucking opulent kings in history, you would feel like you were living out in the woods. I'm not even kidding. You would be cold, dirty, stinky. You'd be shitting in a bucket. You'd be bored. You know what I mean? And you would be living a lifestyle that was significantly better than the average person's. And you would feel grimy, dirty, stinky, filthy, disgusting. If you got sick, you'd die. You know what I mean? Like, if they draft you, let me tell you something about myself. A couple little things. Number one, I'm not a big hypothetical guy, and number two, I'm well aged out of draft. You know what I mean? They're not going to draft me, so I don't have to worry about it, and that makes it hard for me to do a hypothetical about it. Yeah. It's just hard for me to entertain a hypothetical that doesn't apply at all, even theoretically to me, right? I guess theoretically they need old men to go, right? I would be a conscientious objector. I would go to prison rather than pick up a gun for this country. The only instance in which I would pick up a gun for this country is if we were being invaded by a hostile foreign force, right? And even then, I would only do it to defend my personal fucking shit. I severely doubt that you would catch me on the front lines of any defensive war. But theoretically speaking, if they came to me and they were like, hey, you gotta go fight China, I would not go. I would conscientiously object, and that would be that. I'd go to prison, do whatever, right? But it's just there's your hypothetical entertained. Yeah, I'll defend my home, defend the area that I live in. But as far as you shipping me overseas to blow people up on their homeland, nuh-uh. Mm-mm. It ain't me. It ain't me. I'll go to prison. Or whatever they do to people. Hang me in the public square for being a coward or whatever. Whatever's going on at that time, I'll face that rather than defy everything I believe to be true and good. You just don't lead them so much. No. Seeing Paul in a flak jacket on the front lines with a gun would be like seeing footage of 1945 German schoolboys with anti-tank guns. Yeah, it would. It would be a mess, bro. Look, I'm a lover, not a fighter by nature, okay? By nature. That's what I prefer. But yeah, you could miss me with getting shipped over to fucking Iran to fight Israel's little fucking dick measuring contest war over there. Or anything with Israel involved. Like if Israel instigates some shit, you can miss me with fighting for them. You could miss me with going to on one of these economic excursions that we call like defense operations. Miss me with it. They waste their time even doing the fucking lotto with me because if they pull my number, they're just gonna have to find a prison bed for me somewhere because I ain't going. Abjectly refuse on principle to shoot another human being for anything other than defense of my family. Directly. That's it. Miss me with all the, let's fight them over there so we don't have to fight them over here bullshit. I've heard it before. Mm-mm. Do you think people alive right now will live to see America become a secondary power? Yes. I think it's arguable that they already are seeing it now. Yeah, I think it's genuinely arguable that America is now in the shadow of the rest of the world rather than above it. Prison seems like a better option than war. Do you think they'll pick an especially bad prison as a deterrent? Oh yeah, they send you to like military gulag type shit. Yeah. Oh no, you get treated like shit as a conscientious objector that goes to war or refuses to go to war, right? You get treated like absolute scum. But you know what? I'd rather be abused myself than ever pull the trigger with another human being on the other end of it for the economic interests of my country. Never. Not worthy of killing another human being for ever. I don't care what that human being thinks about my country. You know what I mean? I have my own autonomy, and if you order me to pull the trigger and kill a human being on the other side of a fucking skirmish where the ultimate goal is American economic supremacy in the region, you can kiss my ass and throw me in the oubliette. I'd rather suffer that and die in there than break every principle that I believe to be good and honest and real. Time is the debate you're having. It's 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so it's a little late for you East Coasters, but it'll be up on Phoebe's channel, and I believe that Alchemist Soil is going to like film it and put it on his channel as well. So it's not like it's going to go anywhere. So you'll have the chance to catch it, just maybe not live. I hope you can be there live, but it's going to be kind of a late night affair for you East Coasters. Kind of a late night affair for us West Coasters too, but it's a Saturday night, bitch. What do you want? Ooh, yeah, Phoebe Ophi here in the chat. Maybe one of my mods would be so kind to link her channel for me. That would be keen. That would be peachy keen. If it's not too much of a problem. If you guys are like on mobile or whatever, it's a driving or whatever, don't worry about it. But you'll be there and square. Oh. You know anything about this guy's politics, or he's just a Paul hater? Yeah, no, I think he's like he's center left kind of guy. A lib, maybe libish. And I think that he hates mostly, I think, from what I can gather, like I said, like my knowledge on this guy is kind of limited. I've browsed his stuff. I've seen how he posts on the, subreddits and stuff. But from what I can gather, he doesn't like my electoralism stance at all. He thinks I'm a windbag and that I'm full of shit. And what else? I'm honestly trying to paint an honest picture of what I perceive his problem with me to be. Oh, he doesn't like my Anne Frank take that the Diary of Anne Frank was probably heavily fucking edited and put together by her father, right? That is very offensive to him. What else? I've seen him bitch about my eugenics take. So the idea that I think that now that we've reached a point in human history where we can like ensure that no fetuses are born with Down syndrome or harlequin ichthyosis or other kind of like really debilitating, horrible diseases that reduce people's quality of life down to a cinder. Right now that we have the ability to do things like that, I think we ought to do them. Yeah. And he thinks that that is a horrifying and dangerous precedent to set. What else? I don't know. That's about it. That's as much as I can come up with. People raised by crackheads might disagree. Maybe so. Do you think there's a troll aspect to this person? Sure. Anybody who like is going to sit and talk about how fat and ugly and old you look, but never reveals their face, has got a heavy troll aspect. Whatever, you know, that's his choice, not mine. Debating a guy named Alchemist Soil, 10 p.m. tonight on Phoebe Ophi's channel. She's going to be moderating, and he's going to be there, and I'm going to be there, and we're going to talk. There you go. Thank you, Attila. So go subscribe to Phoebes. Be there or be square, etc., 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 blah, 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 blah. Whatever happened to that dork you debated who was flicking boogers in his mom's car? Dude, I don't know. Origin of boogers, I don't know what happened to him, bro. I wouldn't be surprised if he rebranded and is now one of those Reddit dorks. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. You know what I mean? There is definitely some riffraff amongst the subreddit hater community, all 20 of them. There's some suspect motherfuckers in there, some no-lifers, but, you know, is what it is. Maybe he's Spino. Doubtful. Well, people have this, like, misplaced empathy. They're like, people with Down syndrome deserve life. It's like almost like a pro-life position, but amongst leftists a lot of times. And I'm just like, who are you to decide that this person deserves to live with Down syndrome? Like, what misplaced empathy is that? It's like, yeah, people deserve to be born with harlequin ichthyosis, man, because you can just rub some cream on your skin every 2 hours and then you don't get big bloody cracks as long as you keep your bandages up. It's like people want to reduce that beautiful life. It's like, fuck you. What is this misplaced empathy? It's like, if if given the choice, would you be born with harlequin ichthyosis? Would you be born with Down syndrome? Would you be born with Klinefelter syndrome? Would you be born with Prader-Willi syndrome? Would you trade your life for a Prader-Willi life? If no, then why are you so against making sure that never happens to human beings? Why is that such a dangerous idea? You can be as happy as you want as someone with Down syndrome, but who honestly, it's like, would you trade your life? If it's such a unique and beautiful existence that needs to be preserved, right? Would you trade your life for a Prader-Willi disease life? Never be able to have children. You'll keep the intellect of about a 3-year-old, and you'll eat yourself to death unless people control your calories. Would you trade your current life with that? Would you trade your current life for life as a harlequin baby, where you have to rub cream on your skin every 2 hours, or you get big, deep bleeding cracks? You have to keep your whole body wrapped in bandages because you'll get a horrible infection if you don't. Would you trade your life right now for that? Would you trade your life for that beautiful human life? Prader-Willi disease, harlequin ichthyosis, Down syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, Fragile X, Microcephaly. Would you trade your life right now for a microcephalic life? Hydrocephaly. Would you trade your life right now for a hydrocephalic life? Sounds like a beautiful existence, doesn't it? Sounds like a wonderful human existence that should be preserved and cherished as part of our diversity as a species. How noble of you. How noble of you to want to preserve all that suffering and dysfunction. How noble. What a noble position. The nobility knocks me over. I mean, all of these things. Okay, Xenodroid. So you know a Down syndrome person that leads a super happy life. Would you trade places with them? Would you would you have a child and give it Down syndrome on purpose so it can have a happy life too? Super happy and fulfilling life. Answer the question. You're having a kid and you can push a button that makes sure it has Kleinfelters. You'd push a button? No. But isn't that a separate question from whether or not they should be allowed to live? I'm not talking about rounding up all the people that are currently alive with these problems and killing them. I'm talking about modifying fetuses in utero to make sure they don't express these genetic diseases. So I'm not talking about rounding up retards and invalids and crippled people and throwing them into a fire pit. I'm talking about making sure that people like them aren't born in the future. So people don't have to suffer with a 50 IQ, the inability to have children, and dying of heart disease at 30 years old like most people with Downs do. They get a good chance at life when they're born. They don't have to rub cream all over their skin every day, all day, so they don't crack open and bleed out. What about high functioning autism and Asperger's? Absolutely. Let those happen or whatever. But locked in nonverbal autism, you arguing that that's a beautiful, wonderful, fulfilling life? Is that the argument? That locked in nonverbal autism is a fulfilling, beautiful existence that we should preserve? Is that the argument? They think it will lead to other things like race-related slippery slope fallacy. We can't address the problem because of slippery slope fallacy. Right. It makes sense to me. Well, then because of that slippery slope fallacy, we should allow people to be born with horrible, suffering, debilitating conditions that are a burden on their families and society in general and create nothing but suffering, right? We should allow that. No, we shouldn't. We have the ability to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore, and we should take that. Also, the Nazis already tried this. I'm not talking about cleansing a race. I'm not talking about creating the white Aryan Ubermensch. I'm talking about preventing preventable disease in the same way we do when we give a baby a measles, mumps, rubella shot. Right? Those are debilitating, horrible diseases that often kill children. You're giving that child a chance at life by circumventing what naturally would have happened to them otherwise. I'm arguing we do that for Klinefelters, Prader-Willi, Down syndrome, nonverbal autism. All of these debilitating things could not exist now. But people are hung up on this. It's Nazi. No. I'm not talking about eliminating a race of people. I'm not talking about eliminating a religion. I'm talking about eliminating The million people or more that have debilitating, horrible genetic deficiencies that make their lives a living hell. Right? Now, keep in mind, I'm not a decision maker. I'm not a politician. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a mover and a shaker. So my opinion on this ain't gonna change shit. But that is my opinion. We'd be better off if we started using some of the technology we've developed to make sure people don't suffer as much. That's my position. I'm gonna stand on it. I will stand on it. Well, I mean, I told you how far I would go, right? If somebody had genetic markers for like high functioning autism or whatever, I think it should be up to the fucking parent one way or the other, right? But I wouldn't see that being selected for. But the kid that will never speak, right? Locked in, nonverbal autistic, that's not a life of any value. That's not a life of any joy, right? That is a life of suffering and debilitation. It's got to go. If that kid could have been born without that, they would have had much more opportunity to create a life for themselves. I disagree. A nonverbal person could still be intelligent. Right. I understand that there can be a nonverbal person that is still super duper duper intelligent. Right? But they will never live a normal life. They will never live an unassisted life, ever. And they could have had the chance. Now, with modern medicine practices, they could have had the chance to not be a Prader-Willi victim, to be a normal, functional human being. No, I'm not talking about discriminating against those people who already live with those things and the people that will be born with those things despite our institution of this. I'm not saying we throw them in the trash or round them up or get rid of them. I'm saying we ensure that more people like them aren't born in the future, so that eventually it's a rarity for a human being to be born like that, far more rare than it is now. That's all. To be fair, though, what is a normal life? Well, when I say the term normal life, I mean a life where they have the option to do things that other people can do. That's what I mean. They can go out in public. They can have a girlfriend or a boyfriend. They can get a job. They can live on their own. They can live unassisted. They can live not in absolute racking, unbearable pain every day. They can connect with everything that's beautiful and wonderful and good about being a human, right? They have the opportunity to do that unimpeded by some horribly debilitating genetic deficiency. How do we achieve this as a society? Well, I mean, that's a question that requires more time than I have, to be honest with you. But to bring it down to like something easy, we would have to change the way that we think about creating children. We would have to stop looking at it as this immediately inherent right that everybody has to create a kid that they don't care about, right? We would have to start looking at how we make children differently. And it would require a huge sea change in the way that people think about creating another human life. And I see it being pretty unlikely to happen for that reason. Right. I will never be in charge of these things. People like Donald Trump and Vance and Biden, they will be, right? And they are just, a lot of them, in love with this idea that this beautiful little Harlequin baby had a right to live, right? And they'll stand on that. They won't be there when the baby's skin cracks open and starts pouring blood. They won't be there while the mom is up every 2 hours to put cream and antiseptic on the kid to make sure it doesn't die of infection. They won't be there for that, but they will sure be there to argue for that person's right to have been born. You think Trump would be totally for this idea? I think that's fucking goofy talk. I think that's absolute goofy talk. If he's for this idea, why has he never talked about this idea? Look up Trump good genes compilation. That's racist shit. Have I spouted a racism? He's obsessed with white genetics. He's a white nationalist. Hello? Have you been awake the last 16 years? Hello? Very good people on both sides, endorsed by David Duke. Doesn't repudiate the KKK. Stand back and stand by to the Proud Boys, an open Nazi organization, etc. Have you been awake? Hello? Just like, man, dude, are you just so fucking married to me being wrong on this that you're willing to ignore the last 16 years of fucking history? Or what? Is that what this is? Because I don't particularly like the fantasy world that you're trying to create around this topic, Xenodroid. And I want you to start talking like a normal human being if we're going to keep having a talk here. Yeah, I'm going to have to demand it. If you agree with me, then why the pushback? Actually, Paul, what happens if they start being born without white privilege is a disadvantage. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what Trump would be for. That's not what I'm talking about at all. It's retarded to compare to Nazi ideology. And by the way, listen for that tonight when the eugenics conversation inevitably happens. It'll be Nazi ideology. I'm going to be called a Nazi a bunch tonight. Despite the fact that I never talk any Nazi shit, not a racist, right? I don't believe that races or religions should be eradicated off the earth forcibly. Anti-militarist, anti-imperialist, etc., etc. I'm going to be called a Nazi a bunch tonight. You just wait for it. I got a crystal ball right here. Oh, 100%. No, this dude is taking mad notes. This dude is prepping. We're going to watch tonight's conversation on Phoebe's channel. Phoebe can put a link up. I have to go here pretty soon because my phone is about to die. Boop, 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 boop. But yeah, in about 12 hours, Phoebe Ophi's channel. Go subscribe so you don't miss it. If you do miss it, it'll be up on her channel, and I think Alchemist Soil's channel right afterward. So it'll be there. I might do a little stream a little closer to the thing tonight, just kind of lead into it. But until then, I'll see you some other time.